I didn't prepare a fully written out speech because I was organizing past couple of days and weeks and so on and so forth. But I have a few more informal remarks. And as is common in social media, you do reaction videos. So somebody does a video, and then you do a reaction video. So you let the original video go on, then you do a reaction, and people do this. And it's a very cheap way to generate content, and these things are being watched. So you have the original content, you react to it, and you put both of it in one video on social media. And so I have somewhat of a reaction video, but not only. There's some original thought in here too. So I'm quite happy. I mean, we took a new way with this year's Spengler Award that we awarded it to Culture Critic and ThinkingWest, which is a deviation from our tradition of giving it to public figures that have had a distinguished career, and you're very much in your early stages. Both projects are 4 years old, and we're very happy with the decision to give it to the new generation, to young men who push this forward, those ideas into a new generation. So I have just a few remarks on a few of those topics. The general theme is social media and Oswald Spengler. And I got my first email account exactly 30 years ago, in 1994, when I wrote my third book. And I remember using, it was very slow, everything, and there were catalogs there. Search engines were basically catalogs you had to go through, and visually, and no moving pictures. And I was excited. I thought this would lead to a reliteralization of society, because you could not have movies. You had to read. I was really excited about it. And the other thing is that you had to think alphanumerically, because alphanumerical thinking is in rapid decline. It's all algorithm-based, and you learn your algorithm, and you do that. So I had high hopes for the internet. And this lasted until around 2000, maybe 98, 2000. And then in 98, I started my own internet company, and of course in 98 I had the idea, in 2000 it was going, but by then the whole thing was going down, so funding dried up, but it survived. It was a rough period, and that made me independent as an entrepreneur. Then, fast forward, we have the Internet 2.0 since around 2003, when Google IPO'd. And the Internet 2.0 has become a feature of our daily lives. Banking, travel, everything is really going through the Internet. And so the Internet indeed is a massive centralization of power. It's the creation of oligopolies, of local oligopolies. It's not equal treatment. It's about grabbing market share, occupying a certain spot. It's not about openness, but it's about building moats and building certain things. I was very suspicious when, in the mid-2010s, you started to need a mobile phone to have banking. I mean, this is completely contradictory to my idea of freedom, to have a certain device to be able to access what's your own. I mean, I thought that service should be provided by the bank, not by myself, by carrying that device. And of course, that leads to more and more total control and all these things. So the reliteralization was short, and young people are reading less than ever. I could name examples from my family, but I do not do that. But people are watching videos. Young people are watching videos. Reading is in rapid decline. Make no mistake about it. Google is exploding. YouTube is exploding. I mean, it's really moving pictures. Today's 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds and 15-year-olds watch movies. So they watch educational stuff, but it's narrated to them. They don't read. And I always preferred reading because I could skip, I could jump, I could fast forward, I could go back. And with a narration, I'm tied to a linear flow of the narrative, which didn't suit me. I wanted to be free to browse in a book and to look where I wanted to. And now a few big tech firms dominate. YouTube has 10% of all moving pictures, including TV now, so 10% total market share. So that's the situation now. And when you refer to China and Putin as somebody on the opposition, I mean the control in the West and the censorship is not far behind. We're catching up rapidly. It's somewhat behind, but not really far. And the thing about China as a model for lockdowns, there was this Rockefeller Foundation study 2010 about the future of technology, where they envisioned really in great detail the COVID scenario, from a virus from China leading to lockdowns, leading to more control, digital ID, and so on. So these things are being prepared. Totalitarianism is being prepared in the West too, and as David said, the final stages of a civilization are uniform and totalitarian. So some reactions to you, David. Then the West will be entirely consumed by impending civil war, and what will rise from the dust will scarcely be able to go beyond stabilizing, canonizing, and reassuring. Yes, we're headed towards civil war. It doesn't have to be a bloody war, but it might well be. But we see that in the society, in the deep divisions in society. This is all the markings of civil war. Then you say that we have a certain technological peak, and then it would go down. And Spengler said that the young generations in late civilizations turn away from technology. And this has been the case in any civilization, antiquity and so on and so forth. And then you said, and I agree, civilization may still see some increased attention, not only by the elites, but also by the masses to technology. Surveillance technologies, very big, and artificial paradises, the stick and carrot, which you said. But where I disagree, and this is probably one field where the classics are not sufficient to answer the question, but you said that one is, if we look back into the past, the technological jump that separates the early 19th from the early 20th is much bigger than the one separating the latter from the early 21st. At first sight, this could be, but I would think that what we did in the past 2 or 3 decades has been mind-blowing. In biotechnology, in IT, I mean, we have Silicon Valley represented here, so you could talk about that. And so I think what happened in the past 2 or 3 decades is really mind-blowing. And for the first time, and you say, perhaps we will start linking man and machine, but I doubt we will go further than a first and probably disastrous step. Perhaps AI will become even more humanoid in the eyes of naive bystander, but it will never be able to think of itself. It is starting to think of itself right now, at this point. And the people, quite a few of the developers like Geoffrey Hinton at Google, or Mo Gavdat at Google, or Brian Rumle, there's excellent videos. I got this through videos actually on YouTube, but there's excellent videos out there, and there were magnificent breakthroughs. So indeed, this may be the Faustian civilization may transcend itself by abolishing itself. I mean, I just read a paper, natural selection favors AI over humans. So a silicon-based intelligence might replace humans. I see that as more than 50%, at least a 50% probability. So the Faustian man in some ways enhanced his own capabilities, as we did with the physical power, we did it with the mental powers, but these things are creative. You don't program them anymore. They do it by themselves. That's the difference, and we're there right now. We're there right now. In a traditional program, you just give in a sequence, and they're very good at carrying out specific tasks. Well, we have transcended that, and the development of AI is accelerating. And so we might get to the homunculus of Faust, being creator, being God. I quote Spengler now about AI, the internet, whatever, from the final pages of Decline of the West. And these machines become in their forms less and ever less human, more ascetic, mystic, esoteric. They weave the earth over with an infinite web of subtle forces, currents, and tangents. Their bodies become ever more and more immaterial, ever less noisy. The wheels, rollers, and levers are vocal no more. All that matters withdraws itself into the interior, the algorithm. There was a public debate about that Google and all those have to lay open their algorithms. About 8 years ago, I contributed to an edited volume, and it was big with the Democrats in the US and the SPD, the Social Democrats in Europe. How do we govern and regulate big tech? Of course, that debate at some point stopped because big tech just got too powerful. Amazingly, Elon Musk is bringing it back in. He said we have to have some regulatory body for AI. We have to have a moratorium on AI because it could be too late otherwise. Okay, so this may be indeed a turning point in the perpetual cycle of civilizations. And I mean, we had this phase shifts. We had it at the agricultural revolution when we went from a tribal to a state form of government. We may have a totally new phase ahead of us, and it is completely unknown what is there in the future. I quote a bit more Spengler because I think sometimes it's nice to have the original there. And by the way, Robert, what you quoted by Marshall McLuhan sounds very Spenglerian to me. I mean, it's pure Spengler. So I would not be surprised if he really read him and didn't mention him, because Lewis Mumford, for Lewis Mumford, I'm sure he made his career of just putting Spengler into the arena or into the field of the city. I mean, Lewis Mumford is purely Spengler. So some quotes, and I have so many, so I cut it short. English-American, this is from also from Decline of the West. English, and you could substitute social media for this. English-American politics have created through the press a force field of worldwide intellectual and financial tensions in which every individual unconsciously takes up the place allotted to him, so that he must think, will, and act as a ruling personality somewhere or other in the distant thinks fit. Man does not speak to man. The press and its associate, the electrical news service, keep the waking consciousness of whole peoples and continents under a deafening drumfire of theses, catchwords, standpoints, scenes, feelings, day by day and year by year, so that every ego becomes a mere function of a monstrous intellectual something. Could be the internet. I mean, it's even more intensive. Today, we live so cowed under the bombardment of this intellectual artillery that hardly anyone can attain to the inward detachment that is required for a clear view of this monstrous drama. Let's see here. This is a reference to the time. The liberal bourgeois mind is proud of the abolition of censorship, the last restraint, while the dictator of the press, Northcliffe, keeps the slave gang of his readers under the whip of his leading articles, telegrams, and pictures. Democracy has, by its newspaper, completely expelled the book from the mental life of the people. The book world, which is profusion of standpoints that compelled though to select and criticize, is now a real possession only for a few. This is 100 years ago. The people reads the one paper, its paper, which forces itself through the front doors by millions daily, spellbinds the intellect from morning to night, drives the book into oblivion by its more engaging layout, and if one or another specimen of a book does emerge into visibility, forestalls and eliminates its possible effects by reviewing it, which we see with politics right now. I mean, opposition figures don't get airtime on TV and in the media, but they're being talked about, and that being pushed in the right direction again. Let's see here. What is truth? For the multitude, that which it continually reads and hears, as a fallen little drop may settle somewhere and collect grounds on which to determine the truth, but what it obtains is just its truth. The other, the public truth of the moment, which alone matters for effects and successes as the fact world, is a two-day product of the press. What the press wills is true. It commandeers, evoke, transform, interchange, truths. 3 weeks of press work, and the new truth is acknowledged by everybody. And then about influence, money does not pass politically from one hand to the other. It does not turn itself into cards and wine. It is turned into force, and its quantity determines the intensity of its working influence. In the contents of today's tactics consists in depriving the opponent of this weapon. Basically to buy up, there's a quote that you buy up the press or buy up the other's press. George Soros just bought all radio stations in the US. And they had an accelerated approval process because the 2 Democrats in the commission voted for that. So George Soros is now the owner of all radio stations just before the election. And the other side of this belated freedom, it is permitted to everyone to say what he pleases, but the press is free to take notice of what he says or not. So he speaks of the terrible censorship of silence. It can condemn any truth to death simply by not undertaking its communication to the world. A terrible censorship of silence, which is all the more potent in that the masses of newspapers readers are absolutely unaware that it exists. I mean, I've been in pretty far out in the opposition, and I know that censorship is extreme in the West. I mean, it's behind China and Russia, yes, but maybe it's 70 or 80% what they do, but certainly not as low as 50%. And also then we have the Caesars of late age, like Elon Musk and Robert, you referred to a number of people, and they're completely different personalities. Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, on the other hand, Mark Zuckerberg. By the way, there is a Zuckerberg down as, I should have shown you the street name. We have a Zuckerberg in Blankenheim. So we'll see how this all turns out, but the centralization of information, the total control of the message, is advanced very far. And this with a quote from The Hour of Decision, the final quote, "There lie the dice of a gigantic game for the final shape of Western civilization. Who dares throw them?" Okay, those are some remarks. So, our award winners, the makers of Culture Critic and ThinkingWest, are setting out against this tide by drawing out attention to the achievements of Western civilization, to Western values, and to the beauty of Western art. This is a much-needed antidote, not to chaos, as Jordan Peterson would have it, but to cultural relativism. A reaffirmation of our values and our world. One could argue a drop of water in an endless sea. But in true Faustian and Spenglerian fashion, we can say it's the spirit that matters. And even against this quite terrible backdrop, we don't know what might actually become of it. So, congratulations to Culture Critic and to ThinkingWest for setting out on an endeavor that is now more important than ever before. And good luck.